And CS5, there's an option you can go to for your actual rulers. You can go, there will be a drop down menu here, and you'll be able to click if you want to measure several documents. Let's say I'll show you an example here. If I had these documents side by side, and if I wanted to measure from the top left here and keep on measuring, instead of in CS5 if I clicked here, this would automatically set to 0 up here. I can set my options to global ruler. Okay, so if your normal option isn't doing the trick, you want to measure several documents in a row, it's not a problem for me here in CS4. Just click on global rulers. But it's a really good option in CS5 that when I just click on an artboard, it'll automatically 0. Because if I click on this artboard here, you can see that I'm not at 0 up above. Okay, so what I'd have to do there is click and drag to the top left hand side to make that 0. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this back down to here. Okay, so next I'm going to have a look at guides for laying out my document. So I'm going to concentrate on this document here. I'm going to zoom in on it, which would be Command or Control and 0. So I'm zoomed in on the document there. I'm going to zoom out a tiny little bit. Okay. So you can see our increments increased here as we zoomed in as well. Okay. So to create a guide, you go down to View, you go to Guides, and make sure the guides aren't locked in your program, because otherwise you won't be able to move them around. So just make sure they're not locked when you go in. Okay, so to create a guide, I'm clicking and dragging from the ruler. Let's say from the top, I'm dragging from the top ruler, dragging down, and let's say I'm going to go down to just 10 millimeters. If I hold down Shift at the same time, I'll snap to different points. Okay, so that might help you snap to the 10 millimeters, which it does. My guides are set to red, so if I was working in a document that was completely red for your layout, you'd want to change the color of these guides. So to change the color, you go to Preferences, Illustrator, Preferences, and Guides and Grid. Okay, so I can change my grid color here to whatever I want. Say I want my grids to be purple. Okay, and I'll change to purple. Right, and you can do that the same from the left hand side. Go over to the left ruler, click and drag. Let's say I wanted this 30 millimeters in. I can click and drag to 30 millimeters. You can hold down Shift again to snap to the edges. Okay, you can do that on the other side as well. I'm 200 mil in, so I'd go to 30 mil in would be 180. Okay, and I can let go. I'm going to do 10 from the bottom as well. Now you can see the height of my document is, one second, I'm just going to click on it for you, is 297. So to highlight that, I just brought up my artboard tool and clicked on the document. So to go 10 from the bottom, I would measure 287 down. So I just click and drag, and you can see I'm 297 here, and I go to 287. But it's a bit more complicated to get to. So what I'm going to do is just drag this and intersect it with the very bottom of the page. And then there's a really handy tool. So if I wanted to go 10 millimeters up from that, all I have to do, because guides are selectable, is just hit Enter. Oh, I'm on my artboard options. So what I want to do there is click V shortcut or my selection tool to go back out. I can select my guide here, hit enter, and now I can move that guide. So the position vertically, I want to move it vertically, so I'm going to go -10 and set to millimeters. Whoop. Sorry, I meant to go +10 because we're going the other way. So Command and Z, select it again, and choose 10. Okay, and there's our guide there. Now I want to put one in the middle of the page. You can also get, just before I move on, you can also get to that move option. Instead of hitting enter on your keyboard, you can right click and go to transform and move. Okay? You can get to the same options there. Now, I'm going to create one more guide, 120 millimeters down. Okay. 0, so 120. Around here. I could do the very same thing, actually. If you're unsure where the numbers are on the left, I'm just going to line this guide up here, hit enter, and this time hit -120, and you can see my guide has gone 120 millimeters down. I can also do a cool thing here. Let's say if I hit enter again to move it, if I want to make a duplicate line, say another 10 millimeters down, so just -10, instead of clicking OK, which would just move the line that I have there at the moment, I can click copy and it'll create a new line 10 millimeters down at 130 for me. Okay? And another shortcut, if I want to continue making a few grid lines there, I could just hit, on the Mac it's Command and D, which will duplicate those lines, or Control and D on a Windows system. Okay? And just your regular, to go back, just Command and Z to go back, to get rid of them, or Control and Z on the PC. Okay. One more thing I want to look at is just in preferences. I want to have a look at the grid. So guides and grid. Okay. So just to show you in here, you can change your. I'll bring up my grid first. Sorry. View and grid. Show grid. There we go. Okay, so you also have this grid layout system here. You can see it's starting at 0, and if you want to lay things out in squares, you may find this grid system helps you as well. So you can change the grid system in preferences, as I was about to do backwards before, guides and grid. Okay. So you can create a grid line you can enter the amount of millimeters you want to create a grid line yourself. So that's every 25 millimeters for the large ones. Let's say if I put that down to 12, I'll be able to see what's happening there. So I have these smaller grids. These grids will start from 0 because I've set my ruler to start from 0 here. Okay, so every 10 millimeters. And I have these little subdivided squares inside the grids. And you can also change those in your preferences as well. So there's 8 subdivisions. Now we can also put these guides onto their own layer. How do we do that? Well, we created our nice little neat panels earlier on. We just want to go into our layers panel over here. I can get there by just opening up here, nice and neat. Or I can expand all the panels and have a look in my layers panel down here. Okay, so I'm just gonna nice and neatly have my layers on here. So what I can do is the guides are actually placed onto this layer, so I can hide the layers there. Hold on, I'm just gonna turn off this grid. Moment. Okay. So I can place my guides onto their own particular layer. Let's say I don't want them on layer 1. If I create a new layer here, as in create new layer button, same as Photoshop, or else I can use the shortcut, which is Command L for layer. You saw I created layer 2 up here. I'm going to get rid of that. But if you want to name it at the same time, hold down Command Alt and L to bring up your layer options, or Control Alt and L if you're on a PC. And I'm just going to name this Guides layer. Okay. Click OK. And there's our Guides layer there. Now you'll see when I turn it off, obviously my guides are still on layer 1. How do I get them on to the other layer? So what I need to do is select my guides here. I just went to my selection tool up here, or V, select my guides, and you'll see a little blue box appears on it. So this blue box is highlighting the thing I've actually selected, which is my guides. So I can left click and drag this blue box onto the guides layer. Okay, now I'm only after selecting one of my guides. I can select all of them. Okay. And just one more. So what I did there was just multiple selecting, holding down Shift. You can do this for any item, any object. This is how you move objects or shapes from one layer to another. So you just select them and then just click and drag them onto the layer you want. So you can see all my guides are on one layer now. And it's just handy to have them on the one layer, because if I zoom out, I can see I have my layer below, and the guides go down to the layers below as well. So if I'm working on the separate artboard below, and if I didn't want those guides getting in the way, then I could just turn off the guides layer without interfering with any of the objects above. Okay?